At what point do you go, all right, man, is this really working or do I really got to change something big?
Yeah. Do you continue down the path you are in, or do you pivot? That's a huge question.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Do you realize the last Braves game? Well, do you realize the Braves game you sent me to was the last one they lost?
So, Alan, I'm thinking what I did was I set you there to set them on the winning streak.
I fixed them, didn't I?
I think you fixed them.
Yeah, I did, because they're scoring runs, and it's just unbelievable.
I think I'm going to send a note over to the Atlanta Braves organization saying, if you want to continue this mojo,
right,
you need to listen to this podcast, the Small Business Safari. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are live again, and we start every episode with cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Alan. So, Alan, what we were talking about is to put it in context, we're here in the middle of June 2022. It is 127 degrees.
A million. Vietnam hot.
This is the sun hot. But the Braves are just as hot as the weather. They've won 14 games in a row.
And I went to the last one. And I remember I'm so appreciative of these tickets. Thank you so much, Chris. But man, tomorrow Max Fried is pitching. That would have been a good one to go to. And yeah, even at the game I was at, they actually had the tying run at the plate in the ninth inning. So it did get a little exciting.
The Braves game is fun. It's a great environment, right? Even if you don't like baseball,
right? That
setup that they have over there is all about the customer experience, isn't it? It's just a great time.
Yeah, no, they do a really good job ever since they moved. I mean, so my brother-in-law, who was in town from out of state, from Oregon, they don't have a baseball team. I mean, he's a big sports fan. He's been a baseball coach. So he got to go and had a great time. And he took one of his sons. I took one of my sons. And of course, we wanted to hang out early in the Battery and drink a lot of beer and have a good time. But, you know, we're there for our kids. And so we're wandering around. There's only a few things that are really kid oriented. And we found ourselves doing an escape room before the Braves game. But I mean, what a great venue to where
we were here today. Did you escape in time?
I swear to God, if it was up to Kurt and me, we'd still be in there. But thanks to our 18-year-old sons, we got out.
Thank God for kids. Thank God for the kids.
Yeah, they just took over. It was impressive.
That's cool.
But this actually kind of rolls into what you wanted to talk about. I mean, the Braves were in a little bit of a doldrum, and now all of a sudden they're on a hot streak. How did they get that turned around? And of course, the answer is me.
Obviously, just have to have a little more Alan in your life.
You do.
What am I talking about? So what was going on with the Braves in baseball in 2022 was they had come off the World Series. They had won. They're world champions. Go Braves, and we love it. But this season had started, and they were always a below 500 team, could never put 3 wins together this year. And they were trying a bunch of stuff, and you hear from Snitker, their manager, that, I believe in the team. We're going to keep following the process. We're going to keep doing things the way we do things, and we're going to break out of this. And let's think about that for just a minute. What is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right. So what really Snit was saying was we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And what he was doing was he was trying different combinations, different lineups, different people in different spots. He was continually tweaking and motivating and training around, some hitting problems that were going on, seeing the ball, getting the pitchers to get the right mojo going with their spots and their thing. So he didn't say, hey, we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect another result. No, he was continually tweaking, but it wasn't working. At what point do you go, all right, man, is this really working, or do I really got to change something big?
Yeah. Do you continue down the path you are in, or do you pivot? That's a huge question with huge ramifications.
Huge questions with huge ramifications. And let's talk about, if we all had crystal balls, we would be million billionaires, right? Because we would know what was happening, but we don't.
No.
So what we have talked about over a lot of the podcasts is, as a small business owner, we don't realize it's time to close our business until a year after we're supposed to. So let's not close our businesses, people. Let's think about what we need to do. I think a lot of times we don't react and pivot fast enough to make sure that that change happens, so we can change how we're doing business and stay alive and survive and thrive.
It's a really tricky thing, and I'll be curious if we actually solve it, because if we do, we're going to be millionaires after this episode. But going back to the sports analogy, a lot of it starts with your mindset. So for example, all the great franchises you can think of, the Lakers, the Steelers, the Yankees, and even the Braves. And there's just this, hey, you're part of this organization. Look at our winning tradition. Look at our history. This is what it means to be a Dodger. This is what it means to be a Yankee. And we just don't lose. And you look at Pittsburgh, they've only had 3 coaches in the last how many years? Decades.
Decades. And they're sticking with Tomlin, who I would say was a great coach as well right now.
Yeah. And so how do they know to not do crazy things? Whereas you look at teams like, Cleveland, and you got to love the Browns. I mean, it's just it's a really entertaining franchise to watch. And yet it's a different coach every year, a different quarterback every year. The quarterback usually seems to get decapitated before the end of the year. I mean, it's just, why do these bad things continue to happen to those franchises? And yet they're trying a lot of different things. And then you have these great franchises, and it's not just money. I mean, I don't think Green Bay has more money but they've just got this winning tradition, and that continues to breed success. So that's one aspect of what we're going to be talking about.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go down another one. So I will go on record as saying I hate the New England Patriots because they beat my Falcons. But let's talk about the Patriots in the 80s and 90s. You didn't hate them because you know why? They didn't win.
No.
What changed between the 80s and 90s and today in the run they're on? Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the one man did it, because if you look at Bill Belichick's track record up until that, it wasn't stellar. But whatever happened in that culture with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, and I don't even know who the general manager was at the time, they did something. He inserted himself in there, and either he changed the way he was doing things before, or he was in the right organization at the right time to make a change. And Bill Belichick is going to go down as one of the top 3 football coaches in the history of the NFL,
right? Because
of what he's done. So what has he done? Well, he does the same thing every time. And if you watch his press conferences, he is the curmudgeon who is out to attack people. But if you get underneath it and hear a little bit more about how he's doing things, he's doing something, and he's got a really tight culture, because nobody ever says, an unnamed source told me this. You don't hear that from those guys. What else you don't hear is when people leave the Patriots, very rarely do they badmouth people. They may badmouth something, but it gets squashed really quickly and gets put way under the covers.
And the other thing about the Patriots that always has caught my attention is you'll have people that leave for more money, and then you'll have people that'll go there for less money because they want to be part of a winning system.
Want to be part of a winning system and a winning culture. So what does he do? I'm not here to break down Bill Belichick and all the different things he does right, but he is also known as getting rid of people 1 year before they fall off the table. And what do I mean by that? You hang on to this player for a little bit longer, and you're trying the same thing over and over. And again, we just said the definition of insanity. What he is known for is he gets rid of a guy 1 year ahead, and you're like, what are you doing? You just got rid of this guy, and he goes and plays, and he has one great year, and you're like, aha, Bill, you got rid of somebody who was really good. And what happens to him the next year? Go look it up. They aren't there anymore. They are not playing at that high level, or they're actually even out of the league.
I think one of the things that is consistent with all of these organizations is they have somebody in charge who has the balls to make a decision. Whether that decision ends up being right or wrong, they just make a decision. And if it ends up not working out, then they make another decision. I mean, to me, that's just real leadership.
Making a decision in a timely manner.
Yep.
being decisive and making that decision in a timely manner. That is the hard part of what I'm talking about here, about when you're in a rut. It's hard to identify you're in that rut. You're sitting there thinking you're on the hamster wheel and you're running, your things are going right, and you think you're doing all the right things. You're focusing on your people. And when I say you, all right, everybody, I'm talking about me. And
are you in a rut right now, Chris?
I identified that I was in a rut, and I did this because of what I'm about to tell you. I came off a vacation. Yes, another one.
Was this Spain?
No, not yet.
Okay.
This was my precursor to
Was
Spain.
This Vegas?
No, this was after
Was
Vegas.
this Daytona?
This was after Daytona.
Good Lord.
This was after the Charlotte 600 NASCAR race. Yeah, this was Cabo, San Lucas.
Oh, just Cabo. You squeezed Cabo in there.
I did, just for a week though.
Yeah.
Not a long time. Actually, that for me was probably 2 days too long. But back to that, I had that time to reflect, and I started to look at my numbers, where my revenue numbers are, where my people numbers are. And I started to look at output and activities, and I went, oh my God, we're not performing like I wanted to going into the month of June, almost halfway through the year of 2022 in home services, where I should be, quote unquote, killing it. And so I started to dig in more and more, and started to self-reflect. And how do you do this? As a leader, you have to be self-aware, and you have to put your finger first at you.
Yep.
And that's what a good entrepreneur does. Put the accountability on yourself, be self-aware, and say, all right, what did I do? Man, where did I screw up? I had 17 people in my strategic meeting in January. I have 12 of them still here. I was bummed when I thought about that. So I've come back, and the 12 that I have, I actually now I have 17. I have 5 new people. And I started to talk to some of the ones that have been around for quite a while about where I am with my head and what's going on and what do we need to do to change. And one of them said, well, if you go back and look, sir, you'll see that your 12 have been the same 12 who've been with you now going on 5 years. So we have a nucleus. We have a culture, and our culture is strong. And we just got to find the other 5 that buy into that culture and keep those guys on the team. So part of my problem was I picked the wrong people. I didn't pick the Bill Belichick. And let's go back to, how did that guy pick Bill Belichick? I have no idea. Again, I sound like I'm a New England Patriots fan, but I'm not. But the right guy got in the right spot, and they started to propel, move, and roll. And so that's what I'm really trying to look for is, do I have the right people? And that's the Jim Collins theory. Get the people on the bus and then get them in the right seats. Yes, that was a lot to say, and I had to digest it.
I wasn't ready for you to belch.
And I did.
Yeah.
So
I thought you were rolling.
I am rolling, but I just had to get that one out of the way because
if I'd have known.
Yeah, I was hoping
I could have filled in.
I should have done the waving because they can't see that on the podcast. So going back to how, because I am on a roll, and I started looking at that. But the guys this week really helped me with that. Then the next thing I did is I have joined an accountability group. It's called the CEO Peer Group. For some of us out there in the world, they may understand it as Vistage. If you've never heard of Vistage, here's what the concept is that you get in a room once a month with other business owners, similar mindsets, and you hold yourselves accountable. You put a yearly goal together for your company and yourself, and you do a yearly business goal, a yearly professional development goal, a yearly legacy goal, yearly personal goal. And then you put milestones in place, and then you hold yourselves accountable to making monthly progress on that. And so I had my meeting this Wednesday coming off of vacation, and I came into the mindset, I came in with the woe is me. Well, I'm in a rut. And they're like, well, where were you last week? And I said, well, I was in Cabo. They go, well, how does it work when you're in Cabo? One of the guys even said, perhaps you're not as focused as you should be. Fair point. Okay. I said, I agree with you. I said, I've removed.
You can't run a business doing upside down margaritas at Senior Frogs.
I may or may not have been tasting tequilas at 10:30 in the morning. And it may or may not have been 32 different tastes.
32.
That's what it felt like. Every time, Senor, this is going to be my favorite. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to try that then. So point taken, as we talked about it. And they said, well, let's get you out of that rut. All right, what's going on? What are you doing to change? What are you going to do to change and get yourself out of that rut? I said, I'm going to hire better. And I feel like the last month I have hired well, and I have brought on those people, and we're in the middle of training.
You've been proud of how you hire. I mean, we've talked about in the past. What did you do different to kick it up a notch?
Yeah, kicking it up a notch. I involved other people of my 12 nucleus.
Uh,
It wasn't just me anymore. I involved them. And guess who is now bought into the success of these new guys that are coming in?
who?
My 12 people,
The Dirty Dozen.
my dirty dozen. They are bought in to making sure that everybody there is successful that's coming into this group, that they buy into our culture, not my culture anymore. I think I made a change. I do think while I felt like I was in a rut, I do feel like I did make the change early, but I've got more changes coming. And I got one where I'm really using this podcast to talk to everybody about the next thing that's going to happen in June of 2022. We are in runaway inflation. That's the quote. That's the soundbite. That's the hot take right now here in the U.S. So what does our Fed do? They have raised for the first time since 1994. They raised our interest rates 3/4 of a point. Okay, what can I do to get ahead of this? What can I do to not only get myself out of this rut? I'll continually manage my people. I'm going to continually train my people. I'm going to continually do those things. Back to what Snit said. We're going to keep doing those things that made us successful, which is continually evaluating, making sure things are happening, and getting my dirty dozen bought into the vision of what we're trying to do and get us locked and engaged and get these new people involved to get us going. But my job is to look out 6-12 months from now.
Doesn't it always come back to just getting back to the basics of blocking and tackling?
It does. But
And
isn't that very trite?
It is trite, but it's true. And then you've really brought up two good gold nuggets when you get into a rut. And the fact that you identified a rut was good. The first thing you did was you looked inwardly, and that takes a mature individual to be able to pull that off. And the second thing that you said was then you turned to your mentors and your peer group, and you were willing to subject yourself to them, which also is a sign of maturity, because most people don't really want other people's advice, especially when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, the reason why you're an entrepreneur is you want to be on your own. You know the best, and the right way to do things. You don't like being told what to do. And so the last thing you want to do is subject yourself to a group of people and admit that maybe you don't know something and they may know something better. So they tell you, look, quit going to Cabo and doing your tequila shots, Chris,
And I said no.
Yeah.
I took that advice and I said, screw you. I'm still doing tequila shots. I brought a whole bunch home back with me. No, I'm actually in detox right now, but that's all. Ooh, doggy. But I had fun. I needed that time because while I was in that rut, this year I've had a couple personal things. We brought this up, my mom passed away and that's been tough. My son's gone off to Spain. And I was a little bit worried about how that was going to go, and it's all going well. And
that's great to hear.
And time is healing all wounds with my mom. I remember her fondly. That being said, I needed that time to go away and not be in the day-to-day of training people, to sit back and go, okay. And then also be willing to take that feedback. Because you said it takes a mature individual. I can be really immature when I'm under pressure and I'm trying to get a lot of shit done really fast. Don't get the freaking way. Maybe get the hell out of the way. What do you do? Chris, you're going too fast the wrong way. Shut up. I'm going this way. Let's go. Chris, you just went the wrong way. I knew I went the wrong way. I'm just shut up. So I was running. And I got a chance to kind of bring it back. So I was more accepting of that feedback this week. And it's really helped, because there's a big decision coming. And that's why I want to dive into how do you get out of the rut? We got one coming. And I went to that group yesterday and we talked, and somebody said, man, you got to listen to this. One episode of this one podcast that this guy put out. And I literally 15 minutes into it, I can't even say who it is. So if you want to find out who it is, you can go ahead and ping me at Chris at the Trusted Toolbox, or you can go hit us at the Small Business Safari, or you can go out there and keep listening to this great podcast, man, because I'm getting great feedback on what we're doing. And I'll give you that information. But here's what I'm hearing. I've been talking to economists, and we're going to have an economist come onto our podcast here, hopefully in the next couple months. But I listened to this guy, and now I'm going to go back on my corporate America life. I just said the Fed raised the rate for the first time 3/4 of a point since 1994. How many times has the Fed been able to stave off recession by raising rates?
How many?
Not often.
No.
They got, basically, as Jamie Dimon said, they got a 33% chance of staving off recession. So is recession bad?
I guess on a macro level, it would be considered bad, but it is an opportunity, in my opinion.
Exactly. If you know that, if you know the Fed just raised this rate, and you know that you got a 2/3 of a chance that we're going to go into a recession, you like your odds? I'm betting on that recession.
What I like is the fact that if we do head into a recession, I like betting on myself. And I like the fact I'm probably going to be able to get better employees. And the fact that you've got these great systems and processes in place compared to every other chuck in a truck who just is grabbing business because they're the cheap. You have a competitive advantage that's going to be a lot easier to take advantage of when there's an economic downturn, in my opinion.
Keep rolling, brother, because that's where you got to change your mindset. Because when you hear recession, nobody goes yippee outwardly, but the smart ones do.
Yeah.
So you're talking smart. So keep talking.
No, well, so when I had my store in 2008 hit, I actually was kind of excited because we went into a recession. And at the time, I was having a hard time finding top talent. And I'm like, good. This is going to cripple my competition and I'm going to get better employees. And when this sucker is over, which usually takes 18 months or something like that, I'm going to come out bigger and stronger. Now, the 2008 recession just didn't end forever. And it ended up finally taking me out at the knees. But that was my mindset. I have an opportunity to just simplify things, take a look at your expenses. And because when you're just really rolling in it, you're not really paying attention to where the money's going because it's just all moving too fast. And so, we started running a little leaner. We started getting better people. The product that we were producing was better. Everything is better if you have the right mindset during a tough time like that.
So you hit on the parts that are coming up. So let's go back to history. In literally the last 10 years, we have had to have the greatest recession we've had in 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're facing the wildest inflation we've had since the 1980s here in the US. So with those factors coming in, the odds that it continues to keep rolling like that is low. Mm-hmm. So we are in the middle of looking at a recession. What are you going to do to change your business? And you just said it, Alan. Find your talent. Go out there and this war for talent, and it literally is a war. Go out there and find better people. Make those hard decisions. I got my dirty dozen where my culture is great. But if these 5 guys that I just brought on, if they're not going to work, I'm going to make a quick decision. I'm actually going to continually look for people right now. I'm going to continually look for better handymen, look for better project managers. I'm going to continually look for better. But I'm going to also keep it lean. Keep it lean so you can survive this. Because the history shows us that the one we had in 2008 was historic. And the odds that we're going to have another historic one with all the checks and balances and everything else is in place and the world that's going on is pretty low. And so we're probably looking at a 9-month pullback.
Yeah. And the fact is it's a pullback. It's not a shutdown. And what I think most people, when they freak out about a recession is, oh, business is going to go away. No, it's not going to go away. It may be a little harder to get. It may be a little bit more competitive, but there's still a ton of business being done. Just get yours, and get yours by getting better people and doing a better job than the freaking, it drives me crazy right now how bad customer service is and how bad service in general is. And you can be a complete idiot and make a ton of money right now in this economy. It's just superheated. So to be honest with you, I welcome a correction because those sons of bitches don't deserve what they're getting. And it's really going to allow somebody who is a good tradesman, a good business person to actually excel and get rewarded for the good job that they're doing.
If you haven't made the leap to the business world, to the small business ownership world, and you're still thinking about it, this is the time to quote unquote double down on savings, double down on investments. Not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm not saying go play the stock market. What I'm saying is start your saving now, start building up your war chest now, start identifying an opportunity where recession, because I started my business at the beginning of the recession. And I would argue that helped me start it lean, start it mean, it beat the absolute shit out of me and brought me to my knees too. I was able just to stand back up one more time and make it, but any longer and it would have been over.
Well, and you know, I'm in commercial real estate, and we actually did really well during the pandemic, which was kind of a surprise. And then in 2021, we had a great year. 2022 is stupid. I mean, people are selling a location in the middle of nowhere at a ridiculous multiple that makes no financial sense. And so I and my business partner, we actually welcome a little bit of a pullback because, you know, suddenly the investment opportunities are going to be out there again, because right now they're not, because it's just insanity.
I love what you're talking about there, because we're going to bring your partner in and get you guys to talk about that too, because I got some other feedback from other real estate agents in the commercial space about what's going on with everybody moving to Atlanta and what's changing. And you're right. No questions asked. I just, one of the guys in my group has been in his building for, I think, going on 10 years. And he just went to renegotiate his lease. His lease price went up 42%.
Yep.
40. If they came to me right now and said, Chris, your lease is going up 42%, I'd be like, I'm done. I'm going to start working back out of my house. I'm going to put everybody in storage sheds.
We have a listing for an industrial space that is a 60-year-old building. It leaks. The heaters don't work. It actually leaks from the roof. It leaks from the foundation. The driveway may as well be gravel because it's so far decomposed. And there are multiple environmental monitoring sites on the location.
Oh my God. AKA
people are climbing over each other to buy this thing.
So it's stupid.
It is stupid.
So this recession is good. And so embrace it. 2/3 of a chance. I like my odds. If somebody told me that, and that's, I'm taking one soundbite from Jamie Dimon. All right, but let's back up. Go back and look in history. Fed, if you go back and look at the interest rates on the Fed, and every time they raised them up, and did it stave off recession? The answer is no, it did not. There's going to be a correction. Now, is it going to be monumental? Is it going to be a 40% pullback? I've heard that number. I don't know, but you know it's going to be something. So how does it impact you, and how do you benefit from it? Because let's be smarter, people. If you're listening to this podcast, well, I think you're smart because you're listening to us, baby. Hey, baby, let's go. So what do we do with it? Well,
you go to Cabo. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to Spain next.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. And then I actually just started laying out some of my fall plans, but I'm not going to bring that up right now. But I'm going to keep digging. I'm looking for good people. I'm going to keep it lean and mean. I'm going to look for those opportunities. I'm not going to.
Is one of the 12 people on your staff a travel coordinator for you?
No. Job opportunity.
That's
somebody wants
idea,
to help Chris. Yeah, I was just
I saw that look in your face.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm like, good idea.
Yeah.
I think I need a travel coordinator. So if you're looking for a job, you want to be Chris's travel coordinator, give me a call. I'd love to hear from you.
Baker's dozen. The 13th person's your travel coordinator,
and probably my favorite person.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look at this, where do you make those changes, and what do you do, and how do you quote unquote double down? In home services, this place that we're in, and we talked about this a little bit in this group that I'm in, but I talked about it with other people in a different group that I happened to talk with on Tuesday night. We're in the right spot in home services. This stuff, I'm not going to tell you it's a guarantee. It's a home run, but in the world, look at the trends. What's going on? People are moving to certain places, and people are not willing nor wanting to work on their home. DIY is for a lot of people, but also enjoyment. So we joke about Chris and his vacations, but back to when Chris didn't take vacations, what was he focused on? His kids and their activities and all the stuff that going on with the school. And did I do any more DIY? I was time starved, man. I couldn't do it. I had people for that. So we know that home services is going to continue to be a hot spot to be in. And we know that because we see VC money going there. So follow the money. You heard me say this before in a different podcast, if you're listening in, but I'll bring that up again. A lot of times we blame politicians. And so that's so easy, right? I'm Democrat. I'm Republican. Screw that. I'm a moneymaker, man. And I'm an opportunist who wants to look at this. Now, I want to make sure that my people hit their personal and professional goals, because I know this as a business owner. If I'm thinking about money each and every day as a greedy bastard, they're gone. They do not want to stay here. People leave boss holes. And if I'm a greedy bastard and they don't see that it benefits them, they're gone. And you might be saying, well, you know what? I work in
Did
financial.
you say boss hole?
I did.
That's a new one.
I am full of new ones.
Yeah.
I'm getting all kinds of new
I like
ones.
that one.
Yeah. So back to the greedy part, I'm not saying we're being greedy. I'm saying take care of your people, because I'm going to give you another nugget. One of the guys looked at me again. I share more with them than I share with my wife. I've been in this group now for 4 years, and they have helped me immensely. I just open the kimono. I share it all. And one of the guys says,
such a bad image.
It is.
Thank you. I appreciate
right.
that.
I'm
Chris
built
with
like
an open kimono. I love it.
I am built like Buddha.
Kimono.
Just look up the image. I'm not that.
No.
I'm not that hideous. All right. So one guy said, "Hey, buddy, I've known you for a long time, but let me ask you a question." And I'm just going to throw it out there, right? This is a big deal, right? Are you distracted? And I said, no, I'm focused. He goes, okay. All right, good. I like to hear that. He goes, why are people leaving? You said 5 people have left. I said, yeah. Why? So I went through the 5 and I rationalized it. He said, but really, why? I said, they weren't making enough money. He goes, well, maybe you're not charging enough. Maybe you're not setting them up with the value that you guys bring. He goes, and I know what I'm saying because I use you as my service to help me. I'm telling you, you should raise your rates, bro. Because if you're not charging what you need to be charging, and your guys can't make the money they need to make, and your team doesn't feel like they're rewarded for what they're doing. And I get it, because again, in the business model, I'm not this greedy overlord. It's still a very low net margin business that you're in home services. If you're running it right, you're not sitting there doing 20% net. It's just not working in home services that way. And if that doesn't appeal to you, then you don't go that route, because if you're doing that, you won't do it very often and you won't do it very much. But he was right. So now I'm evaluating my pricing structure and the way I do things. And one of the things they also talked about is maybe they need a little bit more assurance of what they can get, and maybe a little bit more, so I have my guys all on 100% commission in sales. Maybe it's not that anymore. Maybe there's a small base in a commission. So I'm going to evaluate that as well. Am I going to make the change? I don't know. But I'm going to go back to what Snicker said, is that we're going to keep doing what we do. And that is continually evaluate on the edges, because at the core, at the foundation of this business, it's solid. Everything in our process and our culture is solid. But on the edges, I got to keep looking.
Raising your rates is always kind of a dicey thing, because you're nervous to do it. And the people who've been selling are used to whatever something costs. And so they are the ones that actually are the most concerned about it. And yet your customers don't know. They don't know that if a week ago they got the bid, it was going to be $200 less than it was today. It just is what it is. But your person's the one that has to sell it. And they have to sell themselves first before they can sell it to their customer.
This is such a hard thing, because we talked about this on a past episode. And it is, if your sales team doesn't believe in what you're selling, they won't sell it.
Right.
You got to get them to believe it. And if you're selling, we are the cheapest, best commodity thing out there, then you got to get them to believe it. But if you're not, which, let's face it, most of us don't want to be in that world.
No.
You don't want to sell the little umbrellas that you put in drinks. By the way, I didn't have any umbrellas in my drinks. They never made it that far. Also, don't ever try to sell me a koozie, because that beer does not make it very far. In fact, we were on vacation with my buddy came up, and the guy came up and said, would you like a koozie for your beer? And my friend looked at him and said, oh, don't worry, it won't make it that long.
It's funny you say that, because we were just on vacation last week in Oregon, and my son was with me, and we were at a store that had all the Yeti stuff. And he's like, that's what I should get you for Father's Day, is a Yeti koozie. And I'm like, why?
Right. I have them at home.
Yeah.
And I use them for everybody else.
Yeah. I don't, yeah. I mean, the beer's not going to last that long.
No way. No, that thing doesn't have a chance. No. Just like the Fed raising the rates, you got a better chance of Chris finishing the beer in 10 minutes versus 3. Yeah, that's not happening. Or finishing 3, not 10. But back to what we were talking about. So the vacation that I went on is really cool, but let me tell you a little bit more about it. On this vacation that I went on, this was not handyman money. This is my wife's money. She made a great commission, and she said we're going for this quote unquote once in a lifetime, which I think
Does that make you a trophy husband?
Well, in this case, I was definitely the kept husband because I had to go on her trip to go worship the sun. Because if it was my trip, which it will be, we'll talk about that one later. So this is where handyman money will take you. Just think Scottsdale, Arizona. Just think Scottsdale, Arizona and Super Bowl, and just think Scottsdale, Arizona and Waste Management Open the same weekend.
Yeah,
next January.
That's big.
I'm there. That's handyman money.
Oh my God.
So
no wonder you were in a rut.
Right.
When are you working?
I don't. Well, do you work to play? Do you play to work? I find my work at play. I find my play at work. That's in my book.
I think you're getting really good at play.
Yeah. So back to my book, From the Zoo to the Wild.
Oh, you did.
Your Guide to Entrepreneurial Freedom and Wealth. You should read it too. And maybe you could do what I'm doing. So we go on this vacation and we went to Cabo San Lucas. If you've never been there, which I had never been, it is in Mexico, clearly on the west side here in North America. And when you go there, it's a pretty expansive place. I did not realize. I just thought there was this one little hamlet, kind of like when you go to Cancun. It's just like this one little island, and that's where it is, and they're all there. No, this place is very expansive, and there's lots of little cities that I had never heard of before. When you go by different hotels and different things, when I say things, I'm like, yes, exactly, things.
I raised my eyebrow.
And you did raise your eyebrows. And I didn't go to those places, by the way, just so everybody knows. But we saw these places, which means you can go to Cabo and you can be at any level you want. And I talked about this in my company. I talked about this in my book. The Ritz-Carlton is known as the premier luxury vacation destination. In our case, this time we went to the Waldorf Astoria, which is also a premier 5-star resort where they absolutely kissed my ass all week long. And it was amazing. But let's talk about this for a minute. What do you get when you go on vacation? Well, you get a room, you get a bed, you get a pillow, and you get a private bathroom. That's it. Well, you can get that anywhere. And you can sell Super 8, Motel 6, Red Roof Inn, Holiday Inn, and you can go stay there. And you could be off property. You can be away from where it's at, or you can be there. And you might be paying $100, $200 a night. Or you can go to one of these premier 5-star locations and you could pay $4,000 a night for a bed with a pillow and a private bathroom. But they
say, Mr. Lalamia, good to see you again. Can I get you yet again another tequila shot?
And I say tequila shot, and don't forget the beer chaser. And bring one here in 5 more minutes.
That's right. I need my feet rubbed.
So why do people go there? How do you sell that over the Super 8 and the Motel 6? And in our business and home services, you could show up, chuck in a truck, ripped jeans, ass crack showing, and maybe do the job right. And what do I mean by that? They may or may not take care of your number one asset, which is your house. It's your number one asset, not only financially, and maybe for some of you it's not, but for a lot of us it is. But personally, that's your home. That's where you raise your family. That's very important to you. Why are you not allowing the professionals to take care of your home? You're like, well, yeah, but who cares? Anybody can do drywall. Who cares? Anybody can put a door in. Who cares? I'm going to go with this other guy because his door is cheaper. Yeah, but my door will not rot again. My door, when set, won't leak into your house and create mold and eventually create a $10,000 mold remediation problem. I'm not selling that scare, but my point here is that when you have to get your team convinced and believing in what they're selling by you raising your rates, that's huge. But you also have to convince and believe yourself. And we talked about that a long time ago. Is have we earned it? Are we really worth it? This 5-star place, the Waldorf Astoria that I went to, they've earned it. They got it, and I believe it, and I could sell it.
And you know they're worth it before you walk in.
Why? Why did you know that?
Just a long history of excellence.
I've never been to a Waldorf Astoria in my life.
But you know the name.
Okay, I knew the name.
Yeah.
But why? Why do we know that? Because they had set a brand out there. And that brand said, when you come here, you are going to get your ass kissed. No, they didn't say that, did they? No, they said, welcome to the Waldorf Astoria, where you're going to hear beautiful crashing beaches and have the most beautiful beach in the world at Cabo San Lucas, which once you walk just 5 minutes down the beach, I'm at a 3-star resort. That's what they called it. I had the guy tell me that. And I stood out there and I went, look at this. I'm looking at the same water, the same beach, the same rocks. And I sat my butt in those chairs. And those chairs were no more comfortable nor less comfortable than anything else. What made them 5-star over 3-star? It came down to
Tequila.
Oh, well, I could have drank tequila on the 3-star and felt really good about it. Customer experience. My drink was never empty. My service was never without. I was always taken care of. And I knew that, and it's not that I was that needy. It's just that other one I went with, the lady who won the thing. And I loved that somebody else had to kiss her butt for a while.
So you just had to look good.
I had to just look good.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't have to do that. I just had to stay away and let those guys take care of her. And you know what? We all had fun that way. It was better that way.
Did she have a good time?
She did.
That's good.
It was cool. And yeah, it is one of those once in a lifetime, really cool opportunities. I got a window in. I met some incredible people. And actually I try to solicit them to come on the podcast. And I've got 2 who we're probably going to get later in the year. Yeah. Pretty cool dudes. And I think they got a really good story. But the point back to this is the customer experience. What do they do differently? I think if you look at the number of people they had on property versus number of guests, probably far exceeded the ratio that you'll see at the 3-star. You know, you're going to get less service in some places, which means if you're willing to do that, you're willing to pay less, but you also know you're going to get less.
So what are they going to do when the recession hits?
That's a great question. And I don't have an answer. Let's think about that for a minute. If I'm a 5-star premium resort, you're going to go, well, they're rich. Everybody goes, that place is rich and they're fine. They're insulated from the recession. And the answer is nobody's not when we're talking about the top 1%, I'm talking about the top 0.1%. Everybody is impacted by the recession when it comes to what's going on, especially if you're not paying attention to it or things happen. So what are they going to do? Are they going to cut back staff? Are they going to go lean and mean? Are they going to upgrade talent? Are they going to double down on marketing? Are they going to offer discounts? Are they going to get more people to keep their occupancy up? I don't know, because I don't work in that world, but those are all questions you need to be asking in your business and what you do. Because some say, you know what, when you go into a recession, double down on marketing, put more money in marketing, go get that advertising, go pay a little bit more on the pay-per-click. You're paying $3 a click or $57 a click, whatever that is. Go ahead and take your budget from $1,000, $2,000, or maybe even $5,000 to $10,000 a month, because you want to get your brand out there, because you just hit on it. And that's why I was waiting for you to say, why did I expect the Waldorf Astoria to be great? Because it's the Waldorf Astoria, and its brand has said, when you walk in there, you're going to get an incredible customer experience.
Which is a really tough spot for them to be in, don't you think? I mean, if everybody walking in is expecting the best of the best, that's really high expectation. And it's a lot easier to let somebody down than if they weren't expecting something and then you actually wowed them. I mean, it's the old adage of, it's easy to get to the top. It's hard to stay there.
Yep. You've raised that bar, to use that analogy, but to keep with yours, you put yourself up there. Now you got to stay there.
Yeah.
And let's go back to, full circle all the way back around. The New England Patriots were known as the doormat. Here comes Bill Belichick. And now they don't make it to the Super Bowl. Everybody's like, oh, this is it. Bill's
or you
done.
lose Tom Brady.
Oh, you lost Tom Brady. You're not the Bill Belichick anymore, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess what? He was.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Yeah. Damn it. I know. I'm pissed. But that's the point. So when you're up there and you've raised that bar and that expectation, you've got to work even harder in your company, which means get better talent, reward better talent, keep working on your people, because your people will be the engine that will make that happen. And if you're a solopreneur, then start working on your offering and what you're doing, and start to really think about what you're doing with your offering. And perhaps it is time to raise your rates. And if you raise your rates, raise your customer experience.
Well, and don't freak out about a upcoming recession. It truly is an opportunity, and you just have to be smarter than everybody else. You have to do a little bit better job than everybody else, but it isn't going to kill you. It's going to make you better, and you should come out the other side stronger than you ever were, because you're going to have cut the fat. You're going to, improved efficiencies. You're just going to be a better version of yourself. So be excited about it.
All right.
Sounds weird, doesn't it?
It does, but it's true. You got to change that mindset. You're staring at option A, and option B is there. And what I mean by that is, when the pandemic hit, option A was, oh my God, I'm going to lean and mean, and this is going to shut my business down. It was hard to think about, oh my gosh, I can thrive right after this.
Yeah.
I should have been buying property and doing all the, no, hey, nobody was thinking that. You're all thinking, I got to go home and I can't do anything, and I got to figure out how to sell over the phone. Oh my God, how do you do that? Well, pivot, man, make it happen.
Well, and it goes back to the whole buy low, sell high mindset. And so we're in this superheated economy in real estate. Everybody's in, and there's that FOMO, fear of missing out. And so it's just a frenzy, and people are paying stupid money for things that they shouldn't. And it's the smart people who are like, yeah, I got a ton of cash, and this is going to come down, and then I'm just going to clean up. I'm going to buy all this stuff below value, and I'm going to turn around and make a killing on it. And so it's that same mindset. Don't worry about the recession. If you are doing a great job and you have good people and you have a great service, just get leaner, meaner, blocking and tackling, and you'll come out of it better than you were.
Yeah, it's great points, and that's how you just got to focus on it. You got to change your mindset, because your attitude reflects your altitude. Leading up to this episode, as always, I try to keep Alan in the dark as much as possible as my corporate mushroom. But he said, hey, what are we going to talk about? I said, how about this thing called gap versus gain? He goes, great. He says, I've researched it. What's going on? I'm like, no, I didn't read the book. I was just talking about. He goes, no, I want to absolutely throttle you on gap versus gain.
I figured you had read all those books and you were super excited and you were like, yay, I'm looking at the gain versus the gap, and I was just going to smash it.
All right. So what is gap versus gain? One of the guys brought this up to me yesterday. I'm actually got the book teed up, going to buy it, going to go check it out. But the point is, I was in a rut, and I said that, and they said, sometimes when you're on your journey for success, how do you identify the gap versus the gain? If success to you is, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and you've lost 18, but you didn't lose the last 2. 2 is the gap, and 18 was the gain. Do you celebrate the gain and still go after the 2? Do you celebrate the gain and stop for the 2? Or do you absolutely put yourself in the doldrums, knock yourself down and go, man, I can't get the last 2. God, I can't get the last 2. And you don't change what you're doing. Now, I haven't read the book. I don't know how it all works. I listened to that. I went, yeah, good point. Fair enough. I mean, things are okay, getting better, but I'm going to keep doing what Snit says, and I'm just going to keep on working on it. Gap versus gain.
Yeah. And what I was ready to hammer you on, and actually there's a lot about gap versus gain that I like, because in corporate America, you always have these goals. And then if you hit your goals, then a lot of corporations are like, oh, I guess the goals weren't high enough, so we need to jack it up another 25%. And you have this perpetual feeling of never quite measuring up. Whereas the gain piece is, well, look where we are today versus where we used to be. But what I'm sensing from some of these books is it's a little bit like a participation trophy. Like, yay, look, we did this. Whereas earlier in this podcast, you were talking about setting the goals and the action steps and everything that you need to do to achieve them, which is the way that America has become great. Is, we have the ability to set goals and achieve them. And how do we go about getting there? Well, to me, that's more of the gap approach, which these gap versus gain books are saying is not correct. So I have a bit of an issue. I do think you need to recognize the progress that you've made, but you're not going to get anywhere unless you actually set some goals and the action steps to get there.
Yeah. So, all right, duly noted. I will probably have to go read that book, and we were going to have to debate this sucker. I am definitely ill-equipped. I have just brought the proverbial knife to the gunfight.
You just threw it out there, and I figured, oh, Chris has read a new book.
Yeah, he's got a new soup du jour.
Yeah, the squirrel, shiny object.
Yay, we get gap versus gain. No, I will go out and read it. I get it. I was with you on
the
that.
The dude sold a lot of books.
He sold more books than I have, but you know what, big boy, I'm coming after you because my book, I just got some more feedback yesterday about how good and gritty and irreverent it is. This is one of the best books I've ever read. Quote, I said, can you please put that on Amazon for me? That was awesome. But the reason it's a good book is because it's just like this podcast. We're giving you real world advice. We're giving you real world. Hey, this is how it happened. Maybe it doesn't apply to you. Maybe it doesn't resonate with you, but by God, it happened. And it happened to me, and Al and I sit here and talk about this stuff with not only each other, but we talk about with some other great people coming in. And you get a chance to hear from us. And we love having a chance to share this with you. So go out there, follow, rate, review us. Come on, man. Go out there, tell everybody else about the Small Business Safari, because we're getting a lot of great traction and we're about to have some amazing guests coming on. And until next time, keep going up that mountaintop of success, and let's get you to the mountaintop that you want to be at.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember to keep that positive attitude, which will reflect in a higher altitude as you're out there making it happen in the wild world of small business ownership. Until next time, go make it a great day, Adventure Team.